All right, welcome. Today, we are diving into a problem that, let's be honest, gives finance teams absolute nightmares. I'm talking about that messy, super high-stakes world of financial data. You know the one where what your sales team punches into Salesforce doesn't quite match up with what's on the actual signed contract? We're going to show you how to get from that chaos to real control. Let's jump in.
This quote, this right here nails the entire issue. It perfectly captures that hidden battle between sales ops and financial governance. See, for a sales rep, the job's done when that deal is marked closed won. But for the finance team, that's when the real work and all the risk is just getting started.
So let's really dig into that conflict. Why is there such a massive gap? Well, it all comes down to how that information gets into your CRM and why that version of the story isn't always the official, legally binding one.
Just look at this. It's like two different universes. On one side, you have the Salesforce data. It's often entered manually, maybe from memory after a call. It's inconsistent, and most importantly, it's not really auditable. But on the other side, you have the contract, the signed, sealed, legal document. That is the official record. It's the only thing that holds up under audit or in a dispute.
And when those two worlds don't see eye to eye, the fallout is very, very real. I'm talking about everything from simple billing mistakes that frustrate your customers to what I call invisible revenue leakage that just quietly drains your bottom line. Suddenly your forecasts are shaky, customer disputes pop up, and worst of all, you get those dreaded audit flags. This is way more than just messy data. This is serious business risk. And just to make it crystal clear, for any company dealing with major financial regulations, things like ASC 606 for revenue recognition or SOX for internal controls, this misalignment isn't just some operational headache. No, it is a material risk that can have huge financial and compliance consequences.
Okay, so we've laid out the problem. It's complex, it's definitely risky. But the core solution? It's actually surprisingly simple. It's just one single principle that, once you really embrace it, can totally transform how you approach financial control.
And here it is. This is the golden rule. Trust the signed contract, not the CRM, not an email chain, not a handshake agreement. The legally binding executed document is the one and only source of truth that matters for finance. It's such a simple idea, but its impact is massive.
So when we say the contract is the definitive record, what does that actually mean? It means everything. The pricing, the payment terms, the scope of work, even when you're allowed to send an invoice. All of it is dictated by this one document. This is the record that auditors will look for, and it's what your customers will hold you to. It's the bedrock for everything else. All right, so how do you actually put this contract is king philosophy into practice? Well, you build a system. And it doesn't have to be some giant overnight project. It's a clear three-step journey that takes you from basic manual checks to complete automated confidence.
This path to control happens in stages. You can start small, with a simple checklist just to build that discipline. Then you change your timing. You move away from that chaotic month-end fire drill to a proactive, continuous review process. And finally, to really scale and make it stick, you bring in automation to do the heavy lifting, enforcing your rules 24/7 without the risk of human error.
Now, this is a really common problem, what I call the language barrier. Your legal contract might say effective date, but Salesforce calls it start date. Or the contract says net 60 and the CRM says 60 days. Manually, a person has to know those two things mean the same thing. This is where modern tools are a game changer. An intelligent system understands the context. It just knows these terms are the same, and it bridges that gap between legal, sales, and finance for you.
This timeline really shows you the power of making that shift. In the old way of doing things, an error made at the deal close might not be found until the end of the month, right? And then it's a huge scramble. In the new world, an automated system flags that same mistake within hours. So by the time month-end rolls around, finance is already working with clean, verified data. No more nasty surprises.
But we're not done yet, because real financial control isn't just about that initial deal. It's about managing the entire customer lifecycle, which is where some of the biggest risks are often hiding.
Now, get a load of this chart. It's pretty eye-opening. We put so much energy into getting the initial deal right, but look, that only accounts for about 10% of reconciliation failures. The huge majority of mistakes actually happen later on, in renewals, in refunds, in credits, and in dealing with all those special, non-standard terms. These are the areas that demand our attention.
So what are these special terms? Well, they're all the things that don't fit into a neat little box in Salesforce. I'm talking about billing that's tied to hitting a specific project milestone, or custom pricing tiers that are buried deep in an appendix. If you don't have a system that can find and track these, you're basically flying blind on your billing and revenue recognition.
The big takeaway here is this. Every single financial event in a customer's life, be it a renewal, a refund, a credit, it has to be tied directly back to that original signed agreement. That's how you build a clean, unbroken audit trail that proves you're compliant and protects your revenue from day 1 to day 1,000.
So let's pull this all together. When you implement these kinds of practices, you're doing so much more than just tidying up messy data. You are making a fundamental shift, moving from a reactive, constantly on defense posture to a proactive, strategic one.
Okay, now I want you to take a second and think about your own processes. Does any of this sound a little too familiar? Let's run through some of the most common traps that teams fall into.
These are the classics, right? Blindly trusting what's in the CRM, forgetting about contract amendments, doing everything in a panic at month end, and not connecting all the dots across the customer's entire life cycle. Avoiding these mistakes isn't just about being neat. It's about making your finance team more efficient, more strategic, and frankly, a lot less stressed.
And this is the ultimate transformation. You move away from that world of stress, constant fire drills, and endless manual work, and you move toward a world of foresight, confidence, and real accuracy. You're no longer just cleaning up yesterday's mess, you're actively controlling tomorrow's outcome.
So at the end of the day, what's this all for? The goal isn't just to cut down on errors, it's to protect your revenue, it's to bulletproof your compliance, and it's to create that one single auditable source of truth. So I'll leave you with this final thought to chew on. If the signed contract is the ultimate truth, how many of your company's big strategic decisions are being based on the fiction sitting in your CRM right now? Thanks for watching.